Welcome to the Food Junkies Podcast. Here, we aim to bring you the experience, strength, and hope of professionals working on the front lines in the field of food addiction. Our mission is to educate you, the listener, and increase overall awareness about food addiction as a recognized disorder. Here, we discuss all things recovery, exploring the many pathways people take towards abstinence in order to achieve a health-forward lifestyle. We hope to inspire you to thrive rather than just survive. So stay positive, make a change for yourself, and share your journey with others. And hopefully the message will spread. Hey, Food Junkies listeners, Clarissa here, and it's my pleasure to bring you this awesome episode. Today, Molly and I interview Shelly-Anne McKay and Elena Garcia. These are two incredible women whose personal journeys and professional expertise are helping reshape how we understand and treat food addiction. Elena brings her lived experience of using food as a coping mechanism to the forefront of her work. Growing up in a family where food was the answer to stress and emotions, she intimately understands the challenges of breaking free from those patterns. After her own turning point, overcoming burnout, emotional eating, and releasing 155 pounds, Elena pursued a degree in psychology to uncover the deeper connections between thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Today, she's a dedicated food addiction coach, creating safe, empowering spaces for clients to heal their relationships with food and themselves. Her compassionate approach inspires others to reclaim joy, health, and vitality in their lives. Shelly-Anne McKay is a masterful food addiction coach and an internationally recognized leader in addiction recovery. Her journey began with overcoming a 24-year battle with substance use addiction, only to uncover her own struggles with ultra-processed food. Determined to fill a critical gap in support, Shelly-Anne created a professional food addiction coach certification program. This program is certified by the National Board for Health and Wellness Coaches, the International Association for Professional Recovery Coaches, and Health Coach Alliance, which is from Canada. She also founded Soul Sisters United, a global online community providing recovery resources to women in underserved areas. With over 3 decades of coaching, business, and media expertise, Shelly-Anne is passionate about empowering professionals and individuals alike to navigate the path to recovery with empathy, resilience, and hope. In this episode, Shelly-Anne and Elena share their deeply personal stories, insights into food addiction recovery, and their groundbreaking work in training and supporting others. We'll discuss how to identify emotional triggers, break out of binge cycles, and why compassion is the cornerstone of recovery. Whether you're struggling with your own relationship with food or a professional looking to support others, this conversation will leave you inspired and informed. So grab a cup of tea, settle in for this heartfelt and empowering discussion with two remarkable women dedicated to helping others find freedom, health, and joy in their lives. Let's dive in. All right. We are so excited to have Shelly-Anne McKay and Elena Garcia from, they have this professional addiction treatment program that they're going to be telling us all about today. So can you please tell us, what inspired you to specialize in food addiction, and how did you first get involved in the field?
Okay, so I'll answer first, and maybe me and Elena can take turns. How's that sound, Elena?
Right.
I'll say that for me, it started with my own relationship with food and my body, because I struggled all my life with that. And so mostly through my teen years, but I had actually memories from as early as 5. And so when I did get older and start to do the recovery work around it, I just found that professionals, they just couldn't really or didn't truly understand the chaos that I was experiencing when it came to this. And so me searching for answers and looking for reasons and options, it just came really clear to me that I really wanted to help other people on that same journey. Once I began my coach training, I became a coach in 2014. And so when I had to decide who I was going to work with and what I was going to do, I was like, hey, you know what? I've been on this journey for so long, and this was such a challenging path to navigate. And I thought this is where I wanted to work and help people too. So, and I find just that the more work that I do to experience like the healing and cultivating mindfulness and like learning about neuroscience and all of that, I'm a bit of a geek in that way. I love that stuff, but I just have become obsessed with finding the answers and continuing the healing. And so I'm on a mission to find like ways to make sure I can eliminate those cravings and experience really truly freedom and peace with food. And so I feel like if I'm seeking that, then others are probably as well. And so it was my own personal, experience with this that got me going down this path.
Well, for me, more than an inspiration, it was frustration that led me to do the research. After years of being like morbidly obese and asking myself the same question, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? I just got frustrated. And then I started, it was something that came from God because I was working someplace else. And then I started working with Shelly-Anne. I discovered there in the professional food addiction coach course that my question was not right. I found out a different set of questions, a different set of paradigms that made me understand that it was not me, or not only me. There are certain parts that I can control, but there are many other parts of my food addiction that were not related to me, but to the industry and how this is set up to hook us up on this kind of processed food. So it was a totally 360 shift from my point of view before and after I started researching this. And that helped me understand how I could do this with myself first. And later on, while practicing this with my own clients, I found out how powerful it is to just change perspectives on this. It's not the person, it's not the client who's at fault. This is a setup for that client, and we need to let them know. We need to not just educate, but let them know with compassion what's happening so they can take decisions. That's what brought me to research on food addiction.
Definitely. I can totally get behind like seeing this, like you said, setup. I love that terminology. It's the setup. And not only is it the food that sets it up, but there's this whole system that really sets it up as far as like diet culture, right? Like we have everybody from like personal trainers to like dietitians and nutritionists to medical doctors, all of these professionals, coaches, like I'm like thinking like whatever company is like Slim Fast and whatever, right? Everybody wants to tell you what to eat, when to eat, and then you'll just lose weight and this, that, and the other thing. And it's this one big setup, as you were saying, Elena. And so I'm wondering, how do you approach the treatment of food addiction differently than like that traditional approach of where it's like really focused on dieting and weight loss?
I would say entirely different because my belief is that there's very good reasons for food addiction. And usually and I would say most times clients are very unaware of like what's really driving it. And they, like, as Elena alluded at the beginning, blame themselves. And so I feel like it's got nothing to do with willpower. It has nothing to do with just pushing away from the table and, putting the fork down or restricting the calories and exercising more. I feel like it's really that like a deeper dive is really truly necessary to like get under the hood, so to speak, and like really uncover like what the blocks are. And then like devising unique strategies for that are really individualized. Cause I find that just like no two people really are the same when it comes to this. So I feel like following fad diets is probably the worst thing that somebody could do when it comes to this.
Well, on my side, I'm a psychologist. So in psychology, we see individuals as biopsychosocial beings. However, the usual approach we have for dieting, weight loss, health is always taking only the body part. Eat less, move more, less calories. All that stuff goes only to the body. And I approach this treatment on the three factors: biologically, the body, but also social. Who are you connecting with? And the mind, what are you reading? What are you watching? Which series or which programs are you watching on TV? Like, it's a 360 approach. That's what I think it makes different what we do, because it's not only the diet part.
Yeah, that's so essential. And we certainly see that when working with our clients as well, that, food is only the substance. There's all this other aspects of our life that really need to be addressed. And because these are the reasons we use the food, right? Or we go back to the food in the first place. So you've both dedicated a significant part of your work to training professionals who maybe are doctors, nurses, personal trainers, who probably would come into contact with food addiction, but maybe don't know necessarily what it is they're dealing with. Why do you think it's so essential for these health and wellness professionals to be trained in this specific area?
I'm going to say that I think most medical professionals go into the field or any in the service field, any of these folks go into this work because they truly want to help people. And I think in the last 6 years, I think this has just become a really big area of focus in terms of like training the professionals. I know you've seen it, and I mean, I'm seeing an increase uptake, more and more folks getting informed around this sort of thing. But I think it's really important because I'm surprised at how many clients come to work with me and express that very same experience of just like not feeling understood by their medical practitioners or their therapist, coach, trainer, dietitian, insert professional here kind of thing. And it really breaks my heart. And I was that client who felt like desperate and alone and like nobody understood me and just like the challenges that I faced every hour of every day. And I think that the reason why folks need to understand this is because I really believe they really want to help people. And if they don't look at it from this other perspective and see it as being more than just this calories in, calories out kind of thing, their patients aren't going to achieve the successes that they really want them to have. And so, and then I think I became more aware of this too when I was working for Kresser Institute Functional Medicine Health Coach Training Program. And I was reviewing hundreds and hundreds of coaching sessions for people to pass their certifications. And I just kept hearing these coaches talking to their clients and the things that they were saying. And you could hear that there was like, I know that it wasn't intentional, but it was almost like there was this blame of the client, like not wanting to do something or that they really didn't care enough to put down the fork. And I had my heart broke for the clients that they were working with. And I was like, these coaches really want to help these people. And I can see that. And they just really need to understand why that their clients can't stay on medically prescribed protocols or why they're struggling to stay on a diet that they actually maybe have to, like if they're celiac and they can't eat a certain type of food, and why that's so hard. And so I feel like it's that it's just game changing that when they come at it with this whole new perspective, how much difference that they can really make and how they can really truly help their clients.
Elena, did you want to say anything about that?
Well, on the part of training professionals, I'm training individuals to train professionals. I'm being taught how to train professionals, so I'm not in that point yet. But when I'm training just my clients on how to deal with food addiction, it takes a lot of self-compassion. Like the first thing that we go with is you're a human being, not a human doing. So relax, pause, and let's walk this slowly. That's my key, because people want to rush because they want the solutions right now. And this is not a 1-minute solution. This is a lifetime solution because we have to practice it every day. So that's the key of my training for my clients. But in terms of professionals, I think we have the leader here, Shelly-Anne.
Yeah, but why do you think that professionals need it, Elena? I think you can answer that. Like, why do you think the doctors and practitioners out there need to get this and understand it?
I grew up in a medical environment. My dad is a doctor, and I grew up in a clinic. And I see how every doctor that stepped in that clinic had the same idea: body, body, body. You are eating too much and moving too little. So that paradigm never worked on me. And I was having conversations with them about my obesity and how can I fix. And the only solution they gave me is eat less, move more. That couldn't be possible. And if I go out of the clinic and talk to other professionals, it is the same. So they need to understand that it's not only the person, it's the environment as well. Something that they are not taught in medical school because they are taught to deal with the body, sometimes with the mind, if they have like a psychiatrist or something, but mostly the body. So they need to expand their focus. They need to be open to accept that there's more to a human being than just the body. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, and so this is where I think we really were excited to get to see, your training program. And so I'm curious to know if you'll share with our listeners, like, what are the key components of your training program for food addiction professionals? And to tie in what Elena was just saying, then why is it that we need to be so careful when we're selecting those professionals, right? Because we don't want to just hear move more, eat less. It's all about your body, whatever. So what are those key components? And then what should we be looking for when we're trying to match with that professional?
I'll take this one. I think that, so when I created this program, I really tried to build it from a holistic perspective, the whole person. And I also really wanted it to have a functional medicine approach to it, because I believe that getting to the root cause of what's really going on versus a Band-Aid type of approach is really what's going to be game changing and lifelong lasting. And a diet works. I mean, I don't know who here has been on a diet and lost weight. Yeah. Who's here been on a diet and gained it right back? So I just don't think that that's the solution. So this was built with that functional medicine approach in mind, from a holistic perspective, getting to the root cause of what's like fueling the food addiction behaviors. And it's really rooted in, I think, neuroscience, psychology, and then even just like the way that I teach it. I think that I've tried to make it accessible too, because I realize that we don't all learn the same. So there's handbooks for those that like to read. There's audio versions for the people who prefer to listen. There's videos. I even actually had a real client who, bless her heart, was willing to let me to use her recordings for the particular purpose of this course, because she struggled and she felt the same way. She said everybody that she spoke to in all the years she's tried to get help, that people just didn't get it. And I said, hey, you and I can make a difference together. If you allow me to record these sessions, maybe at the end we can decide whether or not you'd be open to actually letting me utilize these to teach other professionals in terms of just like how nuanced that this can be and how individual it can be. And she agreed to do that. And so I'm really grateful to her for that. But she felt it was a way to also like pay it forward when she, at the end of our time together, had experienced change that she had never experienced in like 20 years of doing this work with other professionals. So I feel like the key components are very holistic. It teaches people how to work on a very individualized, like this is not a cookie cutter approach kind of thing. So, and then I think when it comes to individuals and them selecting like who to actually work with on this subject matter for their own personal journeys, that I think that's so important, because number one, you've heard from us, and I know the two of you have probably experienced very similar situations where you've worked with people who just didn't get this or didn't understand addiction. And as somebody who not only trains professionals in this area, but also supports coaches to obtain their board designations and credentials, I can tell you that like not all professionals are created equally. So you really want to make sure that whoever you're going to lean into for support around this is actually licensed. They are a certified professional, and figuring out like what their perspective on food addiction even is before you begin working with them. So, and if you feel like they aren't informed or they don't get this, then I think you need to reach out to somebody like myself or somebody like Clarissa and Molly or Elena, who can guide you to get connected with the right people. And like, I've got an agency of internationally trained professionals. I know you've got lots of people in your pocket in terms of resources. So I think trusting the professionals to make those referrals is great. But if you don't have the ability to connect with one of us in that way, or you just want to go about it rogue and on your own, then I think like at least consult with folks for, 15 minutes ahead of time. Most people will give you a consult. Do that, talk to the people, find out what their perspective is. And if your intuition is telling you like they don't get you, then I say go completely the other direction. And I think people who understand this are going to have a very different approach. I mean, I was even looking for a dietitian in a certain area, reached out to both of you. And I said, like, I need somebody in this city, in this area who understands this. And so we, even as professionals, rely on supporting clients and being a network in that way. And so, because there's very few people who get this subject matter. And so I think it's really, really important to be careful when you're selecting those people.
Oh, I love that answer, Shelly-Anne. And it's just so important. You're right, to get the help you need and to support like give you the right treatment, I think is really like help support you in the treatment that is actually going to reduce the symptoms of your food addiction or ultra processed food use disorder. So I think I heard Elena talking about working with individuals. Do you also support individuals, and what programs do you have for them?
I work, like my private practice is focused on women who struggle with food addiction and other related issues. I do that individually, and I also work with the community Soul Sisters United. There I work, like I teach some courses, and I do workshops mostly. I do workshops because I love being live, talking to the sisters. That's how we call our members. It comes a lot of emotion with those, but a lot of knowledge as well. So I love the workshops in a community environment. But definitely working with individuals is my apple in my eye. I love going deep with them. So that's my two-side practice. The community, working with the sisters, and my private practice with individuals. That's how I work.
Yeah, and creating the Soul Sisters United community, it's exclusively for women. And we did that for a very particular reason. We wanted to make sure that it was a trauma-informed space, because both Elena and I were finding that a lot of the people that we were working with that were women who were struggling with this had experienced trauma in the past. And unfortunately, sometimes that had happened at the hands of men. And so we felt that maybe making a sacred space just for the women that would be kind of interesting. And so that's proven to be really a supportive space so far. And so we have guided hosts, like trusted hosts in there who are all trained in my program to work with folks. And that's a series of like, much like how you do a Sweet Sobriety, where there's like live meetings and educational stuff. So very similar, except that yours is more inclusive, whereas ours is more exclusive for the women. And then I too work with people privately around the globe around that. And we also have a series that we're going to be launching actually in November 1st in the next month here. That's a video series that's called Fork This. And it's like it's a big empowerment essentials that people need to, I think, learn in order to begin to do this work on their own, or even to take to, if they were working with either you individually or us individually or others, that they can take the learning from there and then go do deeper work in their private one-on-one sessions. And then, as Elena mentioned, she has private practice. Many of the coaches and therapists and practitioners that work inside of our community for the women, they're under my agency. And so I have an agency of vetted professionals that do work with people privately and one-on-one. And that's like, could be an art therapist, or maybe it's a somatic practitioner, or maybe it's somebody who does somatic therapy or family systems. So different types of treatments and modalities, but all trained in food addiction. So I guess long story short, we do have the one-to-one private services that we offer, but then also the Soul Sisters United community, and then the video series. So in order to access that video series, you do have to be a member of the community. So members of the community can purchase some of these other programs and things that we have as well.
I love it. So not only are you're like kind of like a multi-pronged approach. So not only are you training professionals, but you also work with individual clients, either one-to-one or in some sort of group type setting. There are resources, there's psychoeducation, there's all of that kind of stuff going on.
Yeah. You got it.
Amazing. So yeah. Did you want to say something?
No, I was just going to say, because I think it takes like, it's like our own personal healing journey. Then it's also like maybe a piece of information, like you say, the psychoeducation, maybe there's a piece there that really rings true for us and is helpful. And so I feel like, and even, I could probably take the same class or course that I did, 3 years ago and take it now and still get something new and different out of it. So I think that it's just an ongoing and evolving journey. I think this work.
Same. I think we find the same thing with Sweet Sobriety. We have the foundations course, and we totally find the same thing with that people take it. I offer it live twice a year, and they take it over and over again. And every time they glean something new, because it's right. So like I've heard addiction described as like a learning, in the framework of a learning disorder, almost like it's this deeply ingrained learned behavior that's then reinforced because of dopamine and, oxytocin and certain whatever, right? There's all kinds of mechanisms at play there. We don't have to get into it, but yes, to just take it over and over again and to take it in these different formats, individual sessions, group sessions, whatever, hearing it from your professionals, like having that validated. So maybe they're working with you as a coach, but then they're also going to their doctor who's saying like, hey, how is that work going? And, have you checked out this part, whatever. Like it's like when you have clients who like also do 12-step programs. And if you speak the language, right. And you can say like, oh, did you do whatever step work around this or this exercise, or what does your sponsor say about that? Right. It's just broadening that support network. And when we're all speaking the same language and we can all like see the whole picture, it's just so much better for everybody involved. So I love that you offer all of that. So thinking of all of that, we're curious to know, like, how do you deal with, when there is in the individual clients, when there's, a return to use or a recurrence, there's a binge or some sort of slip, like, how do you address that? And does compassion at all come into that? Like, how do you break those cycles? I know it's kind of a multi-tiered question there, but yeah.
Oh, such a good one though. Such a good one. I guess I mean, being in recovery myself, I have 18 years of sobriety. I guess I learned, and this didn't happen the first time I tried either. So I think I always said I was the queen of relapse. 12 relapses is what it took for me to get sobriety. And I think that it was my ability to look back every time that I so-called fell down or slipped, and getting from that experience, like, what did I learn? And not ever looking at it as a failure. Because I think that every time we attempt to do something, that's better than not doing something. And so I don't believe in failure. I think that it's like, be kind and self-compassionate. And being self-compassionate in those moments is not easy, but I think being self-compassionate and kind is key, because if you don't, I think it just drives the addiction cycle. And so, but really taking the time to like extrapolate the learning from the experience, and then thinking, okay, like, what sort of information from this experience is going to be really helpful to me going forward? Like, what would I do differently, or what was missing, or that sort of stuff. And I just, the way I explain it to clients is like, we'll just keep tweaking. We'll keep tweaking the program, tweaking the process, tweaking the things, the systems, whatever it is that you're putting into place that we're working on. We'll just keep tweaking it until we've got it nailed and you've got, really good, strong recovery. And so, yeah, I think that, breaking the cycle is really self-awareness and curiosity. Those are the two keys.
For me, when it happens much more than you think, that a client comes and says, I'm a failure because I had an episode of binging. Yeah, but it has been 3 months since you had the last one. So more than giving them advice and going like on the situation, I invite them to get curious about it. Like, first, put things in perspective. You have been walking and step after step, success after success. So this one episode doesn't mean that you are a total failure. So put things in perspective and be kind to yourself as if you were your best friend. And get curious. Get curious about what happened, why it happened, what triggered that situation, what was the situation around you, the environment. Like, learn as much as you can from what happened so you can build success from it instead of stacking it as a failure. We're human beings, we are not perfect, and we can keep walking after something like this happens. We can break the cycle only if we pause and we give ourselves compassion and time to process what happened. That's what I do.
You are both speaking our language. I am loving everything that you are sharing today. It's just so compassionate in the way, and like supportive, right? It's like when people are struggling, they need a hug. They don't need a lecture, right? And I think from what you're sharing, that's the way that you work with individuals. So we certainly see in Sweet Sobriety, people, we have a whole module on emotional eating because we know it's such an aspect of food addiction recovery. And, what percentage of the population doesn't struggle with emotional or stress eating? So when you're working with individuals, how do you help them recognize, okay, maybe I'm eating due to an emotional trigger rather than physical hunger?
Such a great question, because I think it's really important that we do figure out like what's driving the choices or the decisions to eat. Myself and the coaches and or the professionals that have come through the program that I provide have all been trained. And I'm going to just say it's a pretty meticulous process of it's very much what I would call like a compassionate inquiry approach that's done with clients to collect information or data. And I like literally drive that process home of like, we need to be detectives here. We can't just take guesses. So we need to like, so I give the coaches and the practitioners like a very detailed handout that has like very specific prompts on it that you can do alone by yourself or with a professional, and then walking through like what all happened, and like almost like rewinding the tape, getting the data, collecting the information. And then once we have that information, we can then look at the situation from a bit of a different perspective and see like, was there a trigger involved? And if there was, what was it? And did we have any control over it? What could we have done? And then also I think connecting people to like, what does true physical hunger actually feel like? Because I think for many of us, I mean, we live in a world where there's such an abundance of food that we don't really even allow ourselves to get hungry half the time anymore. We're eating for the next time that we might be hungry, or eating because it's 12 o'clock and it's just time to eat lunch, whether we're hungry or not. So I think just helping people get back connected to their body and what does true physical hunger feel like, and then really taking the detective dive around the other times when you're eating that are not related to physical hunger. So I think that would be my answer for that one. What about you, Elena? What would you say?
Well, for me, in order to recognize, you have to pause first. Like the mind goes way faster than the body. And well, my mind takes a lot of shortcuts. And if I don't give myself the time to process and get in touch with my emotions before eating, my mind will signal my body, I need to self-soothe. So the shortcut that I know, it's food. So go to food. If I don't pause and get curious, I'm totally messed up. I try to listen to my emotions first. So before I eat, I pause and I have a conversation with my body. What messages are these emotions bringing me? Where do I feel them? What they're trying to tell me. If I don't do this pause, I go to automatically eat whatever is on the table. If I pause, I give myself permission to eat what I want, not what is fed to me. And that is not just in terms of food. That is in terms of everything that I consume, either TV, articles, social media. I need to pause because my mind goes so fast. So that's how I help my clients to say, okay, am I eating because I'm nervous, stressed, happy? I used to eat when I was really happy. I need to go back to balance, get curious on how to do it in a healthy way.
Yeah, I love this conversation because it makes me think about, okay, so we kind of talked about like, how do you help people through like living, experiencing a reoccurrence or return to use? How do we help people determine, are these our emotions showing up, and are we just trying to regulate using food? How do we do that? And I love that you can show up, or it's very different to be able to show up with a client and educate through that and support through that. And I guess I'm curious to know, like, what are your thoughts on like, how do you, because I think about then the professional side of things, and here you are training professionals and they just have to have some kind of professional background. And this could be somebody who's a physical therapist or a personal trainer, all the way to like a medical doctor, nurse, whomever, right? So while we're all kind of in this like health and wellness kind of like big, space, and we all are drawn to our profession for one reason or another. And like you said, Shelly-Anne, I'm with you. I think like most people, when they're in this kind of industry, if you will, right? Like they're this field, like we're looking to help, and knowing that not everybody, right? Just statistically, we know it's not possible. The vast majority of people actually do not experience addiction. So when somebody doesn't have that personal experience, how do you train, so to speak, or teach, or how do you ensure that these professionals are leaving then with the understanding and compassion and empathy needed when somebody does have a return to use, when somebody is struggling to determine, is this physical hunger, emotional hunger, right? Like, how do you do that in your program?
Yeah, it's like, how do I make them care? Hey?
Right. I mean, granted, we hope, right? Fingers crossed, they already have that ability. But I am just thinking about, like, I'm thinking about personal experience as far as like, I worked with the correctional population for a very long time. And as you can imagine, then once I moved out of corrections themselves, I still got the same clients, but now they were coming to me because Child Protective Services had stepped in and taken a child. So, now I'm working with literal social workers who don't understand addiction. And they're like, why can't she just stop using the meth? She would get her baby back if she would just stop using the meth. She said she would stop using, she hasn't used. And I'm like having to counsel the social worker who, while has empathy for the child at play here or children at play, and even the adults, does not understand addiction and can't put that together, that like it has nothing to do with how much a mother loves her child. This is addiction. So I guess, if we could all just make them care, but like more than that, right?
Yeah. Well, because I think that, I think that what attracts people to the program, the professional program that I run is really that they are professionals and they're realizing that they're actually not able to help. Like they feel stuck and they feel like they can't actually help their clients, and they really do want to. So I find there's like those folks that come, and then there's those folks who have been struggling with this maybe in some way, shape, or form themselves. But I really do think that empathy is like crucially critical to this process. Like I got to underline that, crucially critical, because as you said, there are very good reasons why everything is going on here. And I think that one of the main reasons why I created that program was to help, the professionals see the people who do struggle with this, like as humans who are not being defiant and or who don't not care about what they're eating. And so like, how do I instill that in others? I think it's really by opening up their eyes to all of the factors at play for clients and or patients and the many varieties in which that shows up. So I think that by me designing a program that's holistic in nature and like explaining how all these different factors and come into play to create this human that struggles in this way, that people are mind blown, to be honest. Like they're just like, wow, like I never really thought of it this way. Like, and I can say that there's not one person who has come through this program who has left seeing this topic in the same way as they came in. I believe it has been a complete like 180 in the way they see it. And I believe they've left as more empathic humans as a result of that. And if not even more curious about like what's next or what else that they can learn that could be helpful to them to help their clients. And I think that by opening up their eyes to all of that's just game changing for them in the way they approach folks. And like all of the alumni have said that they see it in such a different way now. And so I really do feel like the program has been very effective at creating that. And I can't explain it any other way than that. I think that's a great question. Never been asked that one before.
Could I add
Elena, would you?
Yeah,
I was going to say, would you have anything to add to it?
I do. And I'm going to add it not from a trainer perspective, but someone who, like a professional who took that training, the food addiction program. I found that, of course, the workbooks and the information that is there, it's suit my left brain because it's all scientifically backed up, and you can go and see, like the reference are there. You can go and see whatever fits your needs on your left brain. However, what it really instilled the empathy and the understanding for me was the live sessions. Because there, even if we are 12 professionals there, we are human beings. And Shelly-Anne, I don't know how she does that, but she makes us open up to each other in the room about our own struggles. And we go deep on those. So at the end of the session, you end up being like, okay, I might be my client. That's empathy. That's understanding firsthand what's happening to the other person. And from that, we can work wonders. Because if we don't understand what's happening on the other side, we're going to try to fix. And this is not about fixing.
And I was going to add something to that too, is it's interesting how like so many people will come into that program too, and they will say that they don't have any problem or any shtick with food. And I'm like, no, everybody has a shtick with food. And I'm going to show you that. Even you might not be addicted to food or struggle with food addiction, but everybody has a shtick with food. And usually by about halfway through, they are completely seeing that and how that they have used food or like in an emotional situation. And then even just getting connected to their own experience that way, I think then helps them see their clients and what their clients are struggling with from a completely different perspective. Because I don't think they ever thought that they actually were in that scenario ever themselves either. So yeah, that's how we just take you right there.
It's so powerful, right? Because I've often said to Molly, when I would say to people before, they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm a substance use, professional." Nobody was like, "Oh, well, I'm addicted to alcohol. Let's talk about it." But when I say I'm a food addiction professional, every single person I've ever met is like, "Oh, I struggle with chocolate. Oh, I struggle with chips. Oh, so you're right. Everyone does have their own thing. And so I think that is such a powerful piece, is to help them to self-identify, and then they can see, oh, so imagine if this was, amplified, what that might be like for them. So thanks for sharing that. I think that was like just so inspiring. So I'm wondering, as we know, food addiction awareness is growing, right? There's a DSM proposal by Ashley Gearhart. We're working on the ICD proposal as well. Like, how do you see the landscape of treatment evolving in the next few years?
And first of all, thank you for the work that you both do in that way. I mean, I know you two are really pioneering that and trying to make big changes happen. And I think that if it wasn't for you and that work and the folks that are a part of that process, that we wouldn't be even where we are today. So thank you for that. In terms of like, how do I see the landscape changing? Well, I think that's a really good question. I mean, I think right now I can only dream about a time when like all medical and support professionals see food addiction as a disease and not as people with moral failures. Like, I really want that to become a reality. And I think I've also seen like education, just even around trauma, increasing, and people are becoming more trauma informed, which I think that's really helpful too. And there's a lot of like research and studies around alternative therapies and treatment options. I'm even exploring, I kind of am a little bit of a guinea pig myself, and I try a lot of different things just to see like, what's the effect on me? What's the experience? Because I feel like I have to have tried different things in order to be able to speak about them effectively with clients as options or resources. And so I just think that there is like so many different cutting edge things that are coming out there nowadays that help us from a physical perspective, mental, spiritual. And so that's actually like, we're going to be doing some stuff on YouTube. And one of the threads of content that I'm going to be doing is exactly that, where I'm going to continue to go and try and test out different things and share like what the impact is. Because cravings are something that, although I've figured out a great way to manage them and the severity of those has changed immensely, I'm kind of fascinated by why they never 100% have gone away, even after 18 years. And so I'm on a bit of a mission to figure that out. So I just think that as people are adopting and creating more holistic therapies and bringing even a lot of ancient traditions and therapies and rituals, forward and reintroducing us to that, I think that stuff is becoming really, really powerful, and it allows people to really create an individualized approach to and like what resonates for them. Like, I'm going to be going this weekend and trying a somatic dance experience, and it's supposed to be very healing. And so I'm just being open-minded, like, who knows how that's going to work or feel, but I'm going to go give it a go. So I think in the future, more holistic, individualized, and not being like, oh, this is the one way that you have to, recover from from food addiction. It's this method and that's it. So I think it's going to become way more open-minded. That's my take. I don't know. Elena, what about you?
For me, this question was really exciting because I understand that we are pioneering in something that is going against a big industry. So for me, that's, wow, we are rearranging a setup that is not working, and we are creating this new setup where clients are more empowered. They are more informed, they are more prepared to face the medical and the medical team and the professionals they are seeing. And that will force the medical team to have a deeper connection between each other. Right now, you see doctors with maybe psychologists, psychiatrists as well, because they are doctors as well. But I know that we will see more connections with other practitioners as well. And that's exciting for me. Little by little, we are opening up to new information, scientific evidence that shows how processed foods, sugar, and these apparently new substances the industry is using to hook us up and that are actually creating the addiction. The research is coming, the results are coming right now, but those studies have been in the making for maybe 20 years. And we are only seeing the results now. So I'm excited to see what else comes up in the science community to back up what we are already creating to empower the client, to empower people to take back the reins of their life in terms of food addiction. That's exciting for me. That's what I want to see.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I agree with both of you as far as like what could the future hold as far as treatment goes. And I think there's like all different modalities because again, addiction is addiction is addiction is addiction. Like each kind of like outlet has its own like nuances, obviously, and those pathways or like we know a lot of the symptoms or often it is a symptom of trauma. So there's a lot of crossover. And so I think like if we look to the trauma world and how they're treating trauma, right, there is more point to somatics and nervous system regulation, emotional regulation, all of that. I'm also particularly excited about psychedelics and their potential, use as a tool when it comes to treating trauma, addiction, whatever it might be. And so, yeah, I'm with the two of you. Like here we are doing kind of like, because we are so, in a lot of ways cutting edge, not that there haven't been people that have come before us and not that this is like brand new just in the last 6 years. But that like things are coming. And I think because of the way the world is set up right now we can have these, we're in different parts of the world, literally right now, the four of us, right? And we can have, because of Zoom, we can have these live conversations and we can teach each other and all of that. And information just spreads, at the snap of a finger. So I agree. So I'm curious to know though, for the two of you, like what future projects or initiatives are you excited about? Like when it comes to like training and like just continuing to like make it known that this is a real thing?
I think that, well, I guess in terms of like, I guess for me, it would be like forming new relationships with like practitioners, clinics, professionals, especially the folks that are practicing or focused on obesity medicine, the bariatric surgery side of things, diabetes management. Like I really want to create and form collaborative relationships with them where they actually view us as an extension of patient support. I think like the medical system in so many areas of the world is exhausted. Like it's at max capacity and our practitioners can only do so much. And so they only get so much time with patients. And so I'm excited at trying to find a way to bridge that gap and be the support between appointments for people and help the patients to get even greater successful outcomes so that the doctors and practitioners and the clinics that are doing this work out there are seeing even greater success rates with their patients. And so I feel like that's like a big piece of what it is, that a big project for me that I'm working on. So if there's listeners out there that have clinics and or that they're focused on these areas, like we'd love to talk with you, because I think that that's like the focus of where we want to go, is really connect with the medical space in that way. And then not only finding ways to create greater success, I think, among the patients, but then even maybe add revenue, because we've actually created a rev share model for that as well. So I think that it could be lucrative and successful, like wins on all sides for everybody. So I'm really excited about that. And then I think just in terms of spreading the word about addiction is social media. I mean, like bringing that forward to social media, it took me a lot of courage to even begin to speak about that in the last couple of years and share about it openly. I mean, I was quite open and honest about my journey with drugs and alcohol, but sharing about food addiction was a whole other thing. And so I think I'm excited that I'm getting braver and braver when it comes to sharing about that personally and my journey. And I'm excited that Elena and I are going to be launching a YouTube channel in which that we're going to be focusing on nothing but this topic. And so I'm really, really excited to take that on. What about you, Elena? What would you add to that? What future projects are you excited about?
It all ties to the project that we currently have, like spreading the word, spreading awareness about food addiction is one of the main goals of our community, Soul Sisters United. So for me, growing this community to bring support to women around the globe, like that's my project. That's my heart there, because that I've seen the power of community, the inspiration, the hope, the healing that I have seen happening in that community in a year. It's worth putting it out there to help more people. So that's where my heart is. So that's my project.
Oh, amazing. And I know, Shelly-Anne, we were talking, I think, in one of our first meetings about your best hopes to be able to reach the eating disorder community too. And I would say best hopes being that eating disorder professionals are taking your food addiction training coaching course because, again, just having more knowledge and skills and being able to identify the person in front of you and be like, oh, maybe it's this, opening that them up to that and bridging that gap. I think, that would be such a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that back to the surface, because that is a huge one in terms of changing the way that the folks in the eating disorder community view food addiction. I will never forget. I think I was on this call. I called one of the directories about getting the Soul Sisters United community listed as a support resource for folks who are struggling. And I literally had to have I'm going to say it was probably a 2-hour conversation defending and proving to these folks that this really exists. And they were like, we want to see your research. We have this research. And I said, look, you know what? I think that we can create, I could build a case for anything. There's research everywhere around. So I guess that, I hope that someday your views change, because I just know what it's like to be that person. I am somebody who has struggled with this, and my experience is very real. And so is that of all the clients and the women in the community. And I'm sure that all the folks that you guys have worked with as well. And so, yeah, that is a huge thing to see that shift and that change happen, where we come together and find ways to honor what their belief and scope is. And then at the same time, have them embrace what we see as well. And rather than being separate, find a way to kind of come together. I think that would be amazing for clients. I really do.
Yes.
And everybody who suffers around the world with food addiction. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So where can our listeners find you?
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I don't know if you provide notes, I think, but
we will have all this in the show notes, but we just also like to have you share too.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I would say for me personally, on my website, Shelly-AnneMcKay.com, and then soulsistersunited.com. So those two websites will get you to us or some sort of a contact form or an email or whatnot to reach out to us directly. And so I would say that. And we're on the, Facebook and Instagram and now YouTube as well. So I think you probably can find us on most any of those platforms.
All right. So we have a signature question that we ask everybody. So figure out, I'm guessing Shelly-Anne, you'll go first. I don't know. I feel like we all have this cadence, right? Clarissa goes first, I go second, whatever. So we've tailored it to you. So here it is. What would you tell a younger version of yourself about food addiction and recovery? So this question is for both of you. So go ahead.
I would say I would speak to my younger version of myself and say, you know what, honey, it's okay. You're not bad. You're eating that food for very good reasons. And that food was actually designed in labs by scientists to make you feel good, and it works. And the good news is that small changes add up over time, and they are sustainable. And even more exciting is that there will be people who understand you and can help you with that someday. So surround yourself with people who are on the same journey as you and give yourself just a little bit of love. That's what I would say. What do you say, Elena?
I would say, baby, my girl, you needed something to cope with your emotions, and you took what was presented to you as the best option available. Legal, available, delicious. We didn't know the dirty aspects of the industry behind that box of Twinkies, of course, but we know better now. And we have learned that there are many other alternatives to self-soothe our emotions that are not damaging and that are more compassionate. So there is hope. Reach out to like-minded people, reach out to people that is going to be compassionate with you, and build success in community. That's what I would say.
Amazing. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here, for all of your wonderful wisdom and shares today. It's just, I feel very warm and glowy after this episode.
Thank you for having us. It was truly an honor. And we're just grateful to be connected with the two of you as well. People who share our same vision and view this from, I think, a very similar perspective. It's like, it feels like you're like sisters of ours too.
Yeah. Being with your people, right?
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us this week on Food Junkies Recovery from Food Addiction. Make sure to join our Facebook group, Sugar Free for Life Support Group, I'm Sweet Enough. Molly and Clarissa are food addiction professionals who offer one-to-one counseling and group coaching through Sweet Sobriety. Please subscribe to our show so you never miss an episode. While you're at it, if you found value in today's episode, we'd appreciate you leaving us a review on your favorite platform. Your feedback helps grow our show and allows us to reach others who need to hear this message of recovery. Don't forget to pick up a copy of Dr. Tarman's book, Food Junkies. And as Vera always says, the power is ours.